We start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The motion on the agenda, Norman?
There is, with some modification. I'd like to add item 15. I'm sorry. Let me go. I'm going to go bottom to the top. Item number 13, engagement survey. At this time, I would like to delete that, and you'll know why in a moment. I would also like to add item 14, possible executive session regarding discussion and strategy and negotiations with respect to pending litigation related to charge filed by the Regional District 13 Educators Association, Middlesex County, with the State Board of Labor Relations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other comments?
So now we have two items, 13.
No, because 13 was deleted.
Yes.
So public comment becomes the new 13.
Okay.
The possible executive session becomes 14, and the adjournment remains at 15.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One question. The executive session, we're not allowed to take action when we come out because it wasn't noticed. Is that right?
There may not be action.
Yeah.
No, I understand, but
And we need,
I just for a point of clarification.
and we'll need a 2/3 vote to go into it.
Yeah,
2/3 to go into executive session.
That's not happened before, so usually executive, this all happened pretty quickly, so.
Would the
No, I get
executive
it.
session have to do with the engagement survey?
Might, yes.
If it happened to do with the engagement survey is already on the agenda?
We just withdrew it.
Well, perhaps we should.
We already voted on it.
It needs to come up.
It needs to come on. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Public comment? Tanya? We have a short schedule tonight, so it'll just be 3 minutes, and then it'll be 3 minutes in the public hearing as well.
I know my 3 minutes, so. Good evening. Yeah, I came out purposefully because of the situation that I wasn't aware of the last meeting, and that is that the bonding was going to be on the ballot as well, okay? And regarding, for that purpose, I would just like to say that maybe the tweaking of certain areas, I'm not aware of what the teachers' raises each year. I'll tell you flat out. I know they get their increases every year, but maybe you can share that, if not here at the public hearing, because of the $6.9 million and hopeful for doing modifications and renovations to the existing schools after Lyman is closed. I would just like to think that we could kind of come to compromise in the sense of spending without compromising the matter at hand, and as much as by tweaking, like I said, taking things as Mrs. Johnson shared at the last meeting too, holding off on, the gas situation, conversion to gas from oil, things like that. So I know your deliberations will come after the public hearing tonight too, relevant to both proposals for the school budget per se as well. So I just am voicing my opinion on that for the simple reason is when we mentioned about also on the bonding, and here's where I'm going to just cut it off after this, that it is flat for first 2 years, and then, you do have to compensate and make up for the monies that need to be raised. But we're also, with all due respect, putting out our bonding for 8 more years extension as well. Thank you.
Any other comment? The next item is approval of the minutes from the Board of Education regular session, March 20th, 2019. The motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Any comments? No? All in favor? Aye. The second item is the Board of Education regular session meeting on March 27th, 2019.
Move
Motion.
approval?
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any comment? All in favor? Say aye.
I'll abstain.
Christine abstained. The next meetings, well, at 8 o'clock tonight is the next public hearing, followed by the district meeting on May 6th at 8 p.m. in the auditorium at Cog&Chug, and then the referendum is the following day, and the next Board of Education meeting is May 15th at 7 p.m. here in the library. Next item is the teacher non-renewals. These are for the teachers without, that every year we have to do because if the budget doesn't get passed and
I
the
move we...
non-tenured teachers.
Yes, I move we non-renew the following non-tenured teachers. Lisa Conant, Lindsay Galpin, Serena Garofalo, Kenneth Holt, Corey Kevorkian, Nancy Koslick, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Jessica Kuropat Kashi, Pamela Longley, Dana Markovitz, Danielle Miller, Lisa Mishrisky, Brenda Parness, Ashley Rodriguez, Tara Salvadori, Michelle Schwartz, Dalami Shankar, Benjamin Shouty, Joanna Schmidt, Amanda Torres, and Dominique Watkins.
I'll second that.
This is typically done with our non-tenured teachers before budget referendum. And typically, if everything goes well, it will have a zero effect.
And the teachers know that.
Yep.
So,
I'm aware they know it, but in the grand scheme of things, if the budget doesn't pass, are we really looking to cut teachers, or would we try to find savings elsewhere?
well, I think as a board, we tried to find savings.
So when we
But-
do this, I do know from past experience talking to some teachers when they were new to the district, that it creates a lot of angst in their family, that they have just essentially gotten notice that they might not have a job next year. And that creates a lot of turmoil. And given our pillars and where we stand with treating people and with, with wellness and health, and I think this just adds a lot of undue stress that I don't think we would ever follow through on. If I thought we were in a position where the budget definitely wouldn't pass and the only potential cuts we had were staff, then I would be in favor of this, but I am not in favor of this for that reason.
I understand what you say, because when I was a teacher, it was always upsetting, but I understand that there's a legal reason for it, and it has to be done by law, so it was just something that we weren't crazy about, but we just came to accept as teachers, because I know, I just said that to him, I said, I hated when they used to do this, but.
By state statute,
They
we have to do it by May 1st.
You have
And
to do it,
what we've done in district is that people don't just get a letter. Craig and I, as union president and superintendent, a couple of years ago, co-wrote an email that each of the affected staff members get to let them know this is procedural. We're here if you need us. Your administrator is going to be seeing you with a formal letter. This is what it means. There'll be a follow-up meeting. So we try to give people as much support as possible in the process. And, I think it's a district safeguard that we do this.
And I think by not doing it, we'd be sending a very powerful message that this isn't the means by which we intend to That's just my view, that we would find other means, but
So probably a conversation we need to have earlier in the process. then.
probably earlier in the process, yes.
But I would welcome the conversation, and I'm sure our non-tenured teachers would as well, Bob.
I'm sure they would, and their families, because don't forget, it doesn't just affect them. They go home at night, and they're worried, and their spouse is worried, and their children are worried, and anyways, off my soapbox.
Yeah. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
I stayed. Bob? On communications, I did receive another letter from Miss Samantha Turley on Latin. I don't have any other communications to report. Anybody else?
Well, we certainly saw good play over the
I was gonna say,
weekend.
I mean,
I think
how
one
do you
of the-
not talk about Beauty and the Beast?
Certainly one of the best I've ever seen, and I did send Tim a note, and he said it was one of the hardest ones he ever had to work on, so, but I think his hard work paid off, as well as Erin. I certainly don't want to minimize her, and the entire crew and cast. What a absolutely magnificent job. I was just blown away.
Yep.
I mean, really like outstanding. My girls were obviously in love.
Yeah.
So it was really, really magnificent.
It was. I forgot I was in the high school auditorium. At one point, I stopped and said, "These are high school kids." I said, "I feel like I'm on Broadway, watching Broadway." Between the set, the music, the acting, the singing, the whole thing, it was just phenomenal. You know, costumes, unbelievable.
It'd be nice if the board could have a resolution to the staff and students about how great that performance was.
Yeah.
And if you would like, I would be happy to write it and get it on our next meeting agenda. But
Yeah, that's a great
I've
idea.
never seen anything as, in a high school production that was as fabulous as that play. And the casting was unbelievable.
Spot on.
Yes,
Spot
and the
on.
young fellow that played Gaston
For the first time.
had never acted before. He sings in the chorus apparently, but never has been on stage.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, that's is that true? It is true. That's kind of the word on the street, so I'm,
They were all
he's
so
at least
good,
it's
though.
on Picket Lane, so.
He's also the football quarterback and the basketball team.
Well, yeah, to pick up that young fellow that
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bill.
Oh, yeah. They were all, I mean, every single one of them was just phenomenal.
Tim told me they were making some CDs, so maybe we'll play it again in the future, so.
Sounds good.
We'll hopefully.
I also attended the Middlesex County Chamber of Commerce Durham Middlefield Division this morning that I do monthly on your behalf. And I did receive the public policy agenda, which I don't have copies of, but if you'd like, I'll scan it and send it off to you. It's really quite interesting, not a lot to do with education, but certainly a lot to do with the funding that's going to eventually fund us. So I will, you can expect that in your email.
I did also go to, Tim invited us to, to judge their performance before they go to Disney tomorrow. And so me and Bruce Spotlock were the judges. I don't know what I was judging, just, I can judge the drums, that's about it. But we did listen to the 3 songs that they're going to perform at the band yesterday. And I don't know how these kids can play like they play. There was one song that was very slow, and you could hear each instrument as they came in, and they were just unbelievable how they were able to play. So kids with young kids, you keep them into music because they'll enjoy it the rest of their lives. There was an amazing performance, and I don't see how they will not win something at the thing tomorrow or Friday. So they're off to 150 students are off to Disney tomorrow to compete. Hard to believe we get 150 students to be in our music program. It is incredible. It was a third of the whole enrollment.
And before I forget, just to extend the invite to the board, the second annual Differences Day is at Brewster School on Thursday, April 25th, and it's being expanded to Lyman, and I believe Lyman is the 24th. We had to change the day recently, so I apologize if it's not the 24th, and it might be the 23rd, but I'm pretty sure it's the 24th. So we're excited, so stop by.
Can you tell us just a little bit about it? What's happening?
Sure. So Differences Day is something last year that I had suggested to the former principal at Brewster, Mrs. Heckler. And it's something that my aunt had started in another district, and they've been doing it now for over 20 years, where you basically set up stations and teach kids about the differences between one another in terms of like speech impairments, hearing impairments, physical impairments, fine motor skills. We have a special ed, component to it. And so it's not to like point out a particular disability. It's just more to like show kids, like, for example, my own daughter who can't speak, oh, what would it feel like if you couldn't speak, and how would you talk to your friends? So, and then the teachers kind of expanding it a little bit, where they can go back to the classroom and talk about it with the kids, read a book. And so it just kind of teaches them, like empathy and more like understanding. So obviously something that's very near and dear to my own heart. But it's really, the feedback last year was really fantastic. So I'm happy that we're expanding it, and it's a good day for everybody.
And a unified sports team
Yep, they
participates.
come down and they play a game.
Stay with the kids for lunch.
So they put on a game for the kids, a basketball game. And so that's like usually kind of like the highlight for everybody.
It was well received last year. I'm sure it'll be just the same. So.
Yeah, it's a good day.
Any other communications? Thank you. Kim, you have the business manager's report.
I do. I have the financial report for year-to-date, month-ended March 2019. Revenue, we have received 75% of our budgeted revenue, and we have expended 71% of our budgeted expenditures to date. I'm not forecasting a large fund balance carryover this year, as we experienced for the 17-18 year. We did budget our salaries at 98% for the vacancy factor, and our certified salaries are running very close to that. Our non-certified salaries could see a slight surplus, but time will tell as we fill in with subs and whatnot as the year goes on. We have a slight surplus in our workers' comp insurance. We switched carriers last year and, for the 18-19 year, and we're recognizing a savings by doing that. We do have a little bit of a surplus in the legal fee for corn. We had budgeted some transfer fee costs that we have not expended. There were some expended, but not the complete amount. Tuition, we're running a deficit in tuition of about $100,000. We have an increased enrollment in magnet schools of 3 FTEs, 2 part-time and 2 full-time students attending various magnet schools that were not budgeted for. We just went on the enrollment as it was last year. These were new placements. And then we have the remainder, we're running, I don't know if I said 100,000, I'm sorry, 26,000 of that is for the magnet schools, and the remainder of that is for outplacements for students with significant special needs. So we're monitoring that account closely. We do have a little bit of a deficit in the oil account due to the fact that we still own corn. We hadn't budgeted for the entire year, so we did run over there. And building repairs is running a deficit of $33,000. Combine that with any kind of surpluses, and I do anticipate a surplus, however, not a quarter of what we saw last year. Request for proposals for transportation. The bids went out. It was in the paper that there was a mandatory pre-bid meeting on March 28th. We had 1 bidder attend. 1 vendor called a few hours after the meeting but missed the meeting, and I'm not able to accept the bid after the mandatory meeting. And the bids are due on May 2nd.
So we'll only get 1?
We're only going to get 1.
And they know that?
They were at the mandatory meeting, yes. Request for proposal for audit services, that is out on the street. No meeting for that, and that's due back April 26th, so not sure how many we're going to get on that. School security grant, still haven't heard any news. Sent an email, an unanswered email just yesterday. I think next month, meeting in May, we're going to need to talk about potentially moving those funds to capital reserve that we have earmarked for the vestibules and for the other security upgrades we had talked about. Otherwise, they will expire on June 30th and go back to fund balance. So if we don't have a decision and encumber those funds before June 30th, we no longer will be able to. However, we are statutorily able to move them to capital reserve where they will just stay there until we use them. Vestibule project, once the ed specs are approved tonight, and also for the school construction, I will be able to then apply to the state for the grant. So June 30th is our deadline. I wanted to get it in April or May, so we're on track. MTA, we've received 90.91% of our revenue year to date, so we're doing really well there. And we've expended 70% of our expenditures. We do a health insurance transfer in May. So that will take up a bit of that and increase our expenditure percentage a little bit. And then we also only took half of the general fund transfer that we had budgeted, and if there's enough funds, we'll take the second half of that in May as well. That's all I have for now.
Any questions? Thank you very much, Kim. I'd like to move to recess now for public hearing in the auditorium. Okay, we need to vote.
No,
Just recess.